Welcome to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. This is not your typical financial radio show. As a licensed CPA, insurance agent, and investment advisory representative, Chris coaches his clients on a holistic view of financial well-being with an objective of providing a complete financial strategy to fund life's goals. Chris is here to guide you down the path to the financial serenity you deserve. Now, here's Chris Cooper.
Good morning. What is happening? So every now and then we have to talk about some things we just can't control. There's some uncontrollables out there, and they affect our financial decisions. We talk about them a lot. I talk about taxes, right? We don't know what's going to happen with future taxes, but we want to take control of our interest and our stake in our livelihood. Eliminate that government partnership, or at least mitigate, right? Our own health. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We can do some things to try to be proactive, but we don't know for certain what's going to happen in our future. So we have to put some protections into place there. We have to think about these things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We also can't control inflation. Okay, but that doesn't mean we just stop and let inflation just run rampant in our lives. No, we have to do some things to try to combat that. And those are things that are important to consider. All right. So inflation's a big deal. It's a cost we cannot control, but we can do some things. We can navigate it. We can try to figure out when we do big purchases, what kind of negotiation power can we have? What kind of things can we do to maybe, get what we want, but do it in a little bit different way? Can we get rid of some of the bells and whistles because of the higher costs that are happening in today's environment? Is there a way we can maybe negotiate pricing or wait until a next new model comes out? Cars, great example. When you look at vehicles, there's always a new model coming out. Maybe that means that the old model is going to be a little bit cheaper. Might not have exactly what you want. You might not get that exact excitement from the build process, but you still get that new car. So there's things you can do to help combat some inflation and how it affects you, but not always. Right? Not always. Sometimes costs take place and they just increase and there's not much you can do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that with healthcare, because there's some big changes happening in 2025 with healthcare. And this is the time of year, right? But open enrollment taking full effect in the month of October, November. That's when companies do that. All right. So healthcare is a cost that kind of happens to us. Healthcare inflation is typically higher than the average cost of increases that we see in our livelihoods. All right. It's a big cost. It's a big increase. And there's some significant changes that are going to take place in 2025. And what's crazy is it's actually related to the Inflation Reduction Act. That's what it was disguised under in the current administration, which I find absolutely flooring and fascinating. But the Inflation Act is something that Inflation Reduction Act is something I could pick apart in lots of different ways, because it has nothing to do with EV vehicles either. Nothing to do with renewable energy and all that good stuff either. But hey, you know what? That's okay. We'll go lump it in with Inflation Reduction Act to get what we want out of the bills and stuff that the government tries to push down our throats. So inflation's a big deal. Medicare is where we're going to spend some time talking about the inflationary impacts of Medicare and what's happening in 2025 relating to Medicare. And I'm going to have some fun with it. We're going to bring in my good buddy, who's actually my benefits partner, and he handles my benefits personally as well. So great individual, and we're going to hear from him next. And I'm going to keep my blood pressure as low as possible.
Serenity Now! You're listening to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.com.
Hey, it's Chris, and if you are worried about the risk of rising taxes, would like to keep your fair share, and reduce your partnership with the IRS, I'd like to send you a copy of my latest book, The New Holistic Retirement. You deserve a holistic and complete retirement plan. So why wait? Get on the path to financial serenity. All you have to do is request this book today.
Get your free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, at SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.com. SerenityNowTax.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. You're listening to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper on 101.9 and 94.1 NewsTalk STL.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about benefits. This is the time of year. Open enrollment is in full swing for HR departments across the country, and it is also applicable for our friends in our communities that are on Medicare. So in studio with me today, I've got my good friend Holden Kiefer with Guiding Light Benefits. Holden, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm pretty great today. It's that time of year. It's busy and everything.
Are you feeling it yet? Are you getting stressed?
A little bit. A little stress is okay. Keeps you sharp, keeps you moving, keeps you motivated. So nothing I can't handle.
There you go. Well, so what I've heard a lot about what's going to happen with 2025 and how it pertains to benefits, Medicare, and what is going on in the Medicare world. So what have you seen some of the big changes that people need to be aware of and what to expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, 2025, the Inflation Reduction Act has taken full effect as far as how it pertains to Medicare. And
okay.
The majority of that is how it pertains to the prescription drugs in Medicare. So people who take the supplement and drug card route, there's going to be changes. There are changes to their drug cards. And the people on the Advantage plan side, those MAPD plans that have prescription drug coverage, changes to those as well.
So both sides of the house are going to be seeing some changes for 2025.
Correct. They're different, and that reflects in them being different products, of course, but they are both affected. Absolutely.
And I'd like to talk a little bit at a later point in time about some of the differences between those two.
Yeah.
But when we're still specifically talking about the prescription drug side of things, because that's where you see the biggest change happening.
Absolutely.
What are some of these changes that people need to be aware of?
Absolutely. So in 2024 and the years before that, prior to that, for prescription drugs in Medicare, it worked in phases. So once you have the plan, if you're on the drug card side, you have your premium, you pay your deductible, and then your initial coverage phase. On the Advantage plan side, you're just in your initial coverage phase.
Okay.
You pay copays at the pharmacy when you go to your pharmacist to get the prescriptions you need. And those copays you pay stack up until you enter the coverage gap, or the donut hole is the slang term for it.
Okay.
That number has changed every single year for what it is from the initial stage to the donut hole.
Okay.
And then when you're in the donut hole, essentially what happens is the insurance carriers say, okay, and they have the right to do this per the government, 2024 and prior, where they say, okay, you're taking a lot of prescriptions. They're high-priced prescriptions. We've paid this much. You've paid this much. We're now going to take a step back, and you're going to pay more like 25% of the cost for those.
So your cost as a carrier,
as a beneficiary,
as a beneficiary, cardholder, just went up slightly.
When you go into the donut hole. Absolutely.
Got it.
Then you're in the donut hole for another specified amount of dollars, which changed every single year until you hit the catastrophic.
And it's a total dollar level. It's not per script or something like that.
Yeah,
it's total dollar level.
So for example, only let's say the initial coverage phase was $5,000. You're going to pay regular 10 to 12% copays until you hit $5,000.
Yeah.
Then you're in the donut hole. And then the difference there is, say, another $3,000. Now, those numbers did change every year, so don't quote me on the numbers. But for example, you're in the donut hole for $3,000. A prescription you used to pay $10 for might cost you $40 now.
Got it.
And you just scale that out depending on how much your prescriptions are.
Okay.
Once you hit that next phase level after the donut hole, it's called catastrophic coverage phase. During that phase, it's more like 5% copays for your prescription
So
drugs.
it goes much lower than even before.
Correct, but it continues all year long. So all year until the end of that calendar year, you're going to pay copays.
So no cap.
No cap.
All right.
Now we're in 2025.
Got it. So 2025, January 1st, new rules take place, which are supposed to somehow reduce inflation.
Yeah, that is the act. It is the Inflation Reduction Act. I believe that was the motivation behind it.
No, it wasn't, but okay. We won't go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I have my own opinions, and I'm just going to keep my heart rate nice and low.
Serenity now!
That is good. Okay, so with how the act has affected Medicare now in 2025 is there's a max amount of pocket.
Okay.
Before, we had a max amount of pocket on the health side. You go to the doctor, you go to the hospital on an Advantage plan, and then on the under 65, you see those max amount of pockets.
Sure.
Now in Medicare, we have them on the drug card, on the drug side. And whether that's a drug card or an Advantage plan that's got drug coverage, $2,000 is the new maximum out of pocket for a beneficiary in Medicare, no matter how you cut it for your drug coverage.
Got it. So either plan, either direction, $2,000 is the max out of pocket.
For the co-pays of the prescriptions.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, see, and you can tell I'm talking to a professional here who understands this stuff, because I would have not known there was a difference in lingo there. You said it like the drug card side versus the other side.
Yeah.
I'm with you. So bottom line, though, is we have, for the first time effective 2025, in order to reduce inflation, we have a $2,000 out-of-pocket max on your copay for Medicare prescription drugs.
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
gotcha. Sorry, and it is actually kind of a cool thing for those that do need medications.
It does seem very cool on the surface. This is the first year it's in effect, so we have to see how well executed that's going to be.
Well, it's clearly going to reduce inflation. I'm sorry to keep routing this back, but sorry, it's fun. So, all right. So ultimately, we've got $2,000 max on out-of-pocket stuff.
And the donut hole's gone now. So this coverage got that donut hole where you had to take on more percentage for the cost. It's gone.
So you're basically paying the same thing up until the out-of-pocket max.
Correct. Now those numbers have changed from previous years. So just because you paid this copay for this prescription in 24, it could be completely different now.
Well, all this sounds great, Holden. So explain this to me, because somebody's got to be paying for this, right?
Oh, yes.
So insurance companies become nonprofit? Is that right?
No.
What? Yeah. All right. Now I'm really confused.
As hard as it is to believe, insurance carriers are not non-for-profit.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
What's happening is, in previous years, when you had the coverage gap, the donut hole, and then the catastrophic coverage, is the beneficiary kept paying, so some of the costs were covered, right?
Sure.
Now the government has said that the insurance carriers are going to pay the difference in the cost. So when, for example, someone goes all the way through to the catastrophic coverage, they probably paid $8,000 to $10,000 just to get there, and now they still have copays in previous years.
Right.
Now the beneficiary will be stopped at $2,000.
Okay.
But someone's still got to pay the manufacturers for those prescription drugs.
That's right.
It's being shifted to the insurance companies. So what we've seen is, again, they're not non-for-profit companies. They're going to find a way to not lose money somehow.
Right.
Because there's been a significant amount of changes to both sides in different ways. Both sides being the drug cards or the Advantage plans.
Okay.
On the drug card side, you see humongous increases in premium. They've always had premiums. There have been some that have been low to none in the past, but huge increase in premiums. Like, they're looking more like supplements. On the supplement side, these are all quotes, a couple $100 or so for the supplement, and it used to be 50-ish for your drug card, depending on what company you went with.
Okay.
Now it's a lot closer to 100.
Okay.
Cards. There are some under that, absolutely. I'm not saying they're all 100, but when you've seen $5, $10 increases in the past, we're seeing more like 30, 40 plus dollar increase on a monthly basis for those drug cards. And on the Advantage plan side, what we see is now where there were no deductibles at all, there's still no deductible when you get to like the hospital or medical coverage that you have. But on the drug card side, now there's a deductible that you have to pay into, whereas before the plans would pay that deductible for.
Sure. So ultimately, people pay for it in some way or another, and we're basically spreading this additional cost over more people.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way I'm thinking about it, right?
It's a fair assessment.
Yeah. How you define your fair share depends on how much medical prescription drugs you truly need as an individual. Because this could very well benefit people that need it. And that could be a wonderful, wonderful thing. But this is one of those things that I consider kind of a stealth way that we have tax increases in this country. We basically give ourselves the ability to pawn this off on the masses, right? And again, not that bad for many situations. It's just somebody is going to pay for this.
Yes.
Right.
There is someone who has to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Who it is getting shifted, but someone has got to pay for it. So it seems amazing on the surface, and it does.
It does kind of make sense. I mean, gosh.
Awesome, but I want to see it executed for a little bit before I get excited about it, because it's just so hard for me to fathom someone going from paying thousands and thousands of dollars on a yearly basis for prescription drugs all the way down to $2,000. That is just...
It could be a big thing for those that need it, which is kind of cool. I get worried about what it does to the premium side. And I know that we're going to find that out here in the next couple of weeks as things kind of, morph and come into play.
At this point, most of them are in place for what they're going to be. And it's just kind of, you got to get whoever is the person who you talk to. about your health benefits, you need to talk to them this year, especially if you're a Medicare beneficiary.
I was just going to say that's kind of the key. I think shop around, understand your options, right? And I know people always have this nuance, right? There's this Advantage plan, and then there's this supplement route, and it's kind of polarizing, just like everything else in today's world, right?
For some people.
And I look at the differences, and there's which one's the one that people like just, oh my gosh, they just freak out and they say they're awful about.
Yes, that is oh my God, it's the Advantage plan. It's the Part C side. People I truly believe that most of, not all, but most of the problems that are coming from that side is because of two things. One, people are getting scammed on the phone into those plans, and some random person convinced you or that beneficiary to give them the information they needed, and then they submitted an application. So obviously that plan's not going to work. You didn't actually talk to that person. You don't know that person. And they just did something because that's what scam callers do on the phone. They try to make money by scamming people.
Right.
Obviously, Advantage plans are going to get a better.
And you still get the app. You still get the coverage, but it's not the right coverage for you because this person on the phone didn't care about you as an individual. They cared about getting a sale.
Correct.
Right?
And then the other side of it would be people who take those Advantage plans. It's possible to do it on your own. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's not. And it's possible to do it the right way on your own. But to have someone who's practiced in it, who does it all of the time, hundreds of thousands of times, where they can sit down and explain to you each company what the plan is, the nuances behind them, and you can really know that what you're picking is 100% right, because it's not just you making that decision for you and yourself based off your own research. It's having a professional come in and saying, check all of these boxes. Now we've checked them. Now we know it's one of these two are the best. Pick which one's the best, and you can feel significantly more confident. And on top of that, you get someone to call that's not 1-800 yada yada. Press 1 for English.
Right.
You get a 314 number. Or at least in our area, a 314 number, right, where you can call or text and get someone who speaks perfect English.
Well, and talks to you in person.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know you come in and you actually meet with my clients right here at my office, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I try to be really flexible, especially since COVID. I just want to be really, really flexible. It doesn't bother me whether we have to be on the phone, Zoom, in person, near me. You know, I'm down towards the Richmond Heights area, office in the Creve Coeur area. So, but a lot of people still want me to come to their house and meet with them, and I don't mind that at all.
Well, it's always about personal connection, and I'm the same way. I have a lot of clients where I talk to people on the phone, or I'll have conversations or Zooms and things like that. But I love those initial conversations to somewhat be somehow at least in person, because you learn so much about somebody in that environment.
It's a lot. It's not impossible to connect on the phone or through Zoom. I mean, I can do it, absolutely. But when you're in person, it just has a heavier effect, I feel.
It does. And especially when you're thinking about things that you're looking to have somebody that you can call on a day-to-day basis. I mean, when we work and we're W-2 employees, and we have an HR department that does these little trainings about what's going on and what's shifting in the upcoming year, and we have whole pamphlets of all this stuff. And it seems like your approach really is kind of taking the place of that for folks that you're basically becoming their HR department.
Yeah, when it comes to the health side, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not getting, especially with Medicare, I mean, some of them do have retirement plans that are Medicare plans you can get, but a lot of people have to go out into the marketplace and decide which side of the fence, supplement, drug card, Advantage plan, and then after that, have to pick the companies.
Right.
And the products within that, because just because you say I want supplement and drug card, you're not done.
Right.
You're not done. We got to look at the supplements, and while there's a lot less on that side, you still got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And on the drug card side, especially with all the changes this year, you got to do your homework on that. And then the Advantage plan side, there's homework to do regardless. If you're talking to someone and they're not doing the homework, you're talking to someone about your health insurance at all, and they're not asking you questions about doctors, prescriptions, dentists, things like that, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, especially in changing environments.
Correct.
And Medicare or medical, anything healthcare is always changing.
Oh,
right?
Always.
So what are the key dates that our listeners need to be aware of? What key dates do we need to go, oh, man, we need to start having these conversations so that we can do some things and understand what options we have and make the right decisions for our own situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Medicare, the enrollment period is October 15th. To December 7th. As of October 1st, everything's been officiated. We can talk about it now, but you can't do any changes or any applications essentially until the 15th of October.
So you got 2 weeks in the beginning of October to kind of see what you want to do, what direction you want to go with.
That's when I spend a lot of time with my current clients, trying to make sure that they're all squared away. They're on my calendar. We go through everything with them because it just gets busy during this time of year.
Course.
I want to make sure the people that I've already helped are taken care of, but then I got to make sure I have time for everyone else who's out there who needs help. So
then 15th of October, you can start submitting things. Correct. And when does everything have to be done and finalized?
December 7th in the Medicare world. And then on the under 65 side, which I do help with, talk not quite so much about it, is November 1st to January 15th.
Got it. So a little bit more flexibility on the other side of things.
A little bit more, yeah. It extends a little bit.
But this is the season, right? Yeah. This is when you think about it, unless you've got some kind of a unique situation that happens throughout the year.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So those are our dates. We know what we need to do. And ultimately, the most important thing is make sure you get a relationship with someone you can trust, that you can work with, and that can be your benefits department, because there are always constant changes. So thank you for keeping me and my clients in line. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad I have a resource that helps understand these things much more than I do.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Chris.
All right, bud.
You're listening to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.com.
All right, so talk to my friend Holden Kiefer at Guiding Light Benefits, 314-437-8420. You need an HR department in your corner. That is what makes a big difference, having that relationship, having that person that you can reach out to when you need answers. It is important. These things always change each and every year. Make sure you have that number that is not that 1-800 number, that local resource that can help you get the guidance you need. Make sure the doctors that you utilize are in your network, and most importantly, the peace of mind you deserve. 314-437-8420 or go to talkwithholden.com.
This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
Healthcare made easy. That is what Guiding Light Benefits is all about. And that's where I really appreciate Holden Kiefer coming in and talking a little bit about the upcoming changes we see in 2025, because I know it's going to affect me too. I know it's going to affect me. I just don't know exactly how it's going to affect me. It always does. We have so many folks that depend on the Medicare system, which is government-run healthcare. In today's world, it's going to continue to grow because we're living longer lives. Population is aging, all fine things. But ultimately, if we're going to change the rules on Medicare, which also includes Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act passed under the Obama administration days, right? Expanding that, I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't like government. I like less government. So we have to make sure we understand what we're getting into when we think about this kind of stuff. And that always does scare me. So ultimately, you have to make sure you work with a partner, and that's where Holden helps come into play. Work with that partner, make sure you understand what important goals you have, how it relates to you, and how it can help influence your financial future, because that, my friends, is where the difference gets made. You want to find the right plan for you. You want to find the right thing that fits your profile, your objective, and that's how it makes a difference to you and your loved ones. It's an important conversation. It has to be thought of. And if you don't think about it, you're not going to be in the right plan for you. And that's really where it gets to be important. You have to understand the things that are important to you and how it affects you and how these rules shift and change. So with all the changes coming up in 2025, which are somehow related to the affordable or the Inflation Reduction Act, how, capping Medicare premiums on drugs at $2,000 as an inflationary production or reduction measure is baffling to me. But hey, that's the administration, and that's where we are today. So that's what we have to deal with. So is this going to be a good thing for you? Maybe. If you use a lot of prescription drugs and you spend more than $2,000 today, I would suggest it could be a very beneficial thing for you. However, somebody's going to pay for it. And I don't think it's just going to be the Medicare recipients. I think it's going to be other people too. Folks that are in the Affordable Care Act system and folks that are in the private pay world as well. It's just going to have a trickle-down effect. It always does. So we got to see how that's going to influence and impact us. But most importantly, find the right plan for you. And that's where I think working with a professional is very, very important. When you work with somebody who understands these things and has these conversations, meets your needs, understands what you've got going on, not that 1-800 phone number you see on your benefits statement, or, the 1-800 phone number that calls you and says, hey, you should, sign up for Medicare. Those are the kind of people that you want to make sure are really in your corner, that makes sense for you. The people that learn your goals, your objectives, that's the kind of folks that make sense for you, that'll sit across the table and have these conversations about your life. Which options make the most sense? That's what we do here at Serenity Wealth. We love having these in person. Sometimes they're over the phone, and that's okay too. But most importantly, those conversations we have with individuals, getting to know their goals, getting to know their objectives, and how we can help. How we can make sure we design a customized plan to meet goals and objectives of each individual. And you can only do that by building relationships. That's really what comes down to it, because we're going to have some things we can't control. We can't control tax risk. We cannot control inflation. We can't control market ups and downs. But we can do is build plans that put us in the best position to be successful. And to do that, you can't just focus on ups and downs in the market. You can't focus on this next great, wonderful stock tip. Okay? That's short-sighted. You have to think about your goals, your objectives, how to fund them, and enjoy the lifestyle that, quite frankly, we all deserve.
This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors.
Hey, it's Vic. Are you worried about rising taxes? Well, you're not alone. With government spending outpacing revenue, many Americans fear a tax hike is on the horizon. But here's the good news. You have options. Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management specializes in tax-efficient strategies for income planning, legacy, and growth. Chris knows your money will go to one of three places: the government, healthcare, or your family and charities. Shouldn't your loved ones come first? Don't let Uncle Sam be your biggest beneficiary. Take control of your financial future today. Visit SerenityNowTax.com for your free copy of Chris's book, The New Holistic Retirement. Serenity Wealth Management, because you deserve peace of mind in retirement. Request your free book today at SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.com to get your free copy of The New Holistic Retirement. That's SerenityNowTax.com. Serenity Now with Chris Cooper.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors.